What up, though, y'all? It's Chris. Appreciate you connecting with me while I do 10,000 steps today. Also appreciate those of you joining along for the ride. 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That is the goal currently. Of course, we'll up it if we reach that goal before then. Maybe we'll up it to 5,500 or even 6,000. But as it stands right now, the goal is 5 G's. This topic here is from a sub. Asked well, let me give a shout out to the name, man. Cam, too great. Shout outs to you, bro. But the topic is about men basically being labeled misogynists for not wanting to vote for Kamala Harris. And that very much is being done. It's being done by certain people, though. And this is a shaming tactic, and it's not gonna work. These shaming tactics, they don't work anymore. They did work once upon a time, and when they saw that they worked, they kind of overused them, and now they've lost their effectiveness. You know, you're this, you're that if you don't do what I want you to do or what I think you should do. You're this or that if you don't vote the way I think you should. You're this or that if you don't think how I think you should or I believe you should. It's just ineffective nonsense. So you now are faced nowadays, if you're a man and you're deciding you're going to vote a different way. You may not even be deciding you want to vote for Trump. It could be some independent or something. You just don't want to support Kamala, and the person you do want to support happens to be a man. You're automatically labeled a misogynist, which is, let's just be for real here, that is a 0 IQ assumption. You know, it could be just that Kamala's not a great candidate. Could they ever for a second consider that? She's just not a great option. But no, they immediately go for an insult. They don't try to understand at all why you don't want to vote for her, why you believe what you believe, why you've taken your position. They don't ask you any questions. They don't try to meet you in the middle and at least get an idea for how you came to the decision that you came to. You're doing this, we don't like it, so we're going to immediately categorize you in some group that, has a very negative stigma attached to it. And again, it's not working. But who are the people who mostly do this? It's usually feminists and male feminists, aka male liberals. But I mean, it's always liberals collectively. It's always liberals. It's some sort of feminist or some sort of male feminist, or just one of these people that are just woke and refusing to just hear anything. What I've noticed, and I see this from the right as well, but I see it a lot more from the left. They believe what they want to believe, and damn any sort of proof you can possibly provide them with to show them otherwise. They want you to believe that Trump is a bad man and Kamala is a good woman. And regardless of what you show to the contrary of Kamala being a good woman, I suppose being a good person isn't necessary, really. If you want to be a politician, that really doesn't matter. As long as you do the things necessary to get things going, I guess it really doesn't matter. But that's always what they trade on, though. He's a bad man. He's a bad man. He's a bad man. And it just doesn't work when you look at Kamala's track record. You want to say the other guy's a bad guy for what he's done, but you refuse to admit the very questionable things that Kamala has done. So I've noticed a few things out of their playbook. If you are a man and you don't want to vote for Kamala, you are a misogynist. If you are a non-black man and you don't want to vote for Kamala, you are a racist and a misogynist. It can't be that, you just don't like her politics. It can't be that you just look at the fact of how she's moved over the years and you don't want to support that. It can't be any of those things. You're either a misogynist or you're a racist with being a misogynist on top of it. And I remember somebody pointed out, I don't know if he was on The View. This was a little bit ago. He was talking to Sunny Hostin, and she was talking about the lack of support amongst men with Kamala is because of misogyny, which again, these are zero IQ plays. They really are. So categorically, men, get on board and support this woman. And if you don't, you're automatically a misogynist. Do what I want you to do, or else. You don't have an option. It's just get behind them, or else you're these very unfavorable labels. And he pointed out that none of them are voting for Trump. And he was talking about them all on The View. None of them are voting for Trump. And by their very logic, they're all misandrous. And they just shut down. They had nothing really. The women on The View who always have something to say, regardless of how stupid it is of what's going to come out of their mouth, they had no real comeback for that because the logic is flawed. It's just so stupid. And they're not used to that stupid stuff coming back their way. They're used to just saying whatever they want, regardless of how absurd, and no one giving them really any pushback, because in most cases, they only have people on that share the same views and opinions as them. And when they do have somebody on that, is from the opposite side, it's like, what, 4 of them? They kind of gang up on them. They tend to overtalk, not let the person finish what they have to say. More oftentimes, they apply this tactic to male guests rather than female guests. If it's a female guest, even if they don't necessarily agree with what she may have, to say, they'll at least let her finish her thoughts. But when it's a man, he never gets that respect. And this kind of lends itself to being misandrous, because why is it that when you have women on the show, you give them the respect of at least letting them finish their thoughts, even if you don't necessarily agree? But when it's a man, no. So I find it very interesting how they're so quick to throw these terms out. It's the seeming misandrous. Now, I don't know if they really are or aren't misandrous, but if you are just judging from the outside looking in, they do come off that way. So the misandrous, or seemingly so, constantly accusing men of being misogynist, it's an interesting irony about that I don't think gets talked about enough. So the ladies on The View, and I'm using them as reference because more often than not, when I see women talking about you're a misogynist if you don't vote for Kamala, it's usually coming from them. They have the biggest platform, and they have usually an audience of clapping seals that just agree with whatever it is they say, clap for whatever they say, regardless of how ridiculous it may sound. So that's why I'm using the ladies of The View. The ladies of The View are a bunch of very out of touch, woke, liberal, feminist, and I don't really believe they can be reasoned with. I know Sunny Hostin, who loved to be the resident voice for Hispanic and Black, loved to be. She found out that she's not Puerto Rican, or I think it was Puerto Rican that she believed she was. I could be wrong, but she ended up finding out that like her ancestors from her Spanish side were from Spain, and they actually were slave owners. And so she had to own that. So for you to do all this talking that you do, you're not what you've represented yourself to be. Now, I understand that this had to have been surprising. Maybe she didn't know this, or I don't know, maybe she did know this and just always kept that secret and it ended up coming out. I don't know either way. But for someone that wants to be this self-proclaimed voice of black women, finding out that your Latin half owned slaves, that's not a good look, man. It's not a good look at all. And you know, like, no one would care about this really if it weren't for the fact that she takes it upon herself to try to like occupy black. And that's another thing. What is with this desperate need to occupy black all of a sudden? Like, you know, you got people like her that want to occupy black. You got Kamala Harris that they're trying so desperately to occupy black with her. She's not a black woman, okay? Stop trying to force her on us. We don't want her. We're not claiming her. We don't want her. She's not one of us, so just give it up. I noticed that they're not pressing her as being one of us as much as they once were, but they haven't completely given it up. You have a woman that is Indian whose father is not black. You have her father identifies as being Caucasian. There's an interview out there with Judge Joe Brown, and he was talking about her father, how he knows her father and he thinks her father's a good man, but he's like, her father identifies as being Caucasian. So where does the black come in? Neither one of your parents are black. So where does the black come in? Where does the being a black woman come in? So all the nonsense that you don't want to vote for Kamala because she's a black woman is a lie on its face. Not only isn't it an absurd accusation, but then it's not even accurate. They just took some story and spun it and run with it, and they really didn't care about how accurate it was. And this might be the most delicious thing about this. When it came to Kamala Harris and her ethnicity, it was a black woman who exposed it. You know, what's her name? Candace Owens, who, you know, love her or hate her, you know, that's fair, whatever. I can understand both sides of liking her and disliking her. But I'm going to tell you this. If you got a daughter, who would you want your daughter to be more like? Candace Owens or one of these female rappers? You know, one of the Sexy Reds or Ice Spices or Nicki Minaj's or Cardi B. Like, what would you rather her be like? Would you rather her be more like one of them, or would you rather her be more like Candace Owens? You can be, you could be on as much BS as you want. There ain't no way if you got a daughter, you would rather her be more like them than Candace Owens. Cut it out. The problem is that amongst our people, it's the other ones that are way more influential amongst our youth, amongst our young girls, our impressionable young ladies. They're far more influential than Candace Owens ever could be with them. But that's a whole different video. But it was a black woman who actually exposed her. And what happened? You had goofy, simp, male feminists like Charlemagne and D.L. Hughley speaking ill of her in defense of Kamala. It's just like the way they came for Janet Jackson. When Janet Jackson said she heard she wasn't black. Janet Jackson really didn't know one way or the other. She said she heard she wasn't black. And she wasn't in any way, shape, or form trying to attack. She just was saying what it is that came across her plate, the information she came across, the birdie that was in her ear. You got mofos coming for Janet Jackson and Candace Owens, actual black women, for the defense of Kamala Harris, who's not. Make that make sense, man. Make that one make sense. I'm gonna leave this here though. Shout out to you again, Cam the Great, Cam Too Great rather, for the topic suggestion. I'm gonna keep doing my steps out here. Thumbs up this video, leave me them comments, let me know what y'all think. Subscribe, because we still on that journey to 5 G's. Holla, peace.